Good morning, brothers and sisters. Naomi back for another video. I said I was going to do one on condensing the information around the key of David so that we could maybe understand it a bit better. For anyone who's actually trying to understand what these passages really do show us, which is the key of David, which is identified as the daughters of Zion. Now, I think the first thing that we actually have to do in order for any of us to understand it allegorically is to understand our comparison to the physical element of that. And what I mean by that is the verse that you find in Job 31:33. Okay? So I'm going to read the verse to you. Now I had the word that I wanted to look at and it pulled up. But it says, okay, I'm on interlinear. Just a second. Okay. I got to do this while my computer actually is working. But it says, if I have covered or concealed my sin as it says people, no, it's clearly Adam, by hiding my guilt in my heart. Now the King James says this. I went by the King James too. This is the King James. Where is it? Where is it? If I covered my transgressions as Adam by hiding mine iniquity in my bosom. Okay, so here we have a verse telling us that Adam hid sin in his bosom. Okay, they'll say, I have covered my sins over. All right, what does the word to cover mean here? Well, it's going to give you Hebrew 3680, and it means covers, conceals, covered, hide, made a covering, overwhelmed, take refuge, closed, engulfed, hidden, keep. Okay, so if I look the word daub up, because we're going to encounter this word daub and what they did to the physical wall. So here we're looking at the spiritual wall with Adam and what he hid in his bosom, which was sin, and he covered it over. He daubed it over, is what you're looking at in allegory, in allegorical terms. So you have the spiritual context or your allegorical context that you're looking at it, and then you're going to have your physical comparison or example of that in this actual existence. All right? And this is where the key of David comes into play. All right? So, definition of daub: to coat or smear a surface with a thick or sticky substance in a carelessly rough or liberal way. So they daub the wall up. All right? They daub the breach up. This takes us to what Adam did. He covered, he daubed his sins over in his heart. He hid them. He hid them. He hid his transgressions. All right? Bedaub, smear, plaster, bespatter, splash, stain, spatter, splatter, cake, cover thickly. Now, when I hit that word, cover thickly, it made me think of the verse Habakkuk 2:6. I'm going to look at that in a minute. But in a noun, it says to plaster, to clay, clay over, or another substance used for coating a surface. Now, when I hit that word clay, sorry, I can't talk today, and I also hit that definition where it says cover thickly, it took me to the verse that we found in Habakkuk 2:6. And this is what it says. Shall not all these take up a parable against him, and a taunting proverb against him, and say, woe to him that increases that which is not his? How long? And to him that ladeth himself with thick clay. Well, who did that? Well, Adam did. And he accused the woman. When God came looking for Adam, male and female, they were one, they were not. His name's Adam, and he's in charge of her. No, they were one. Her name was Adam too. God wasn't looking for the man. God was just calling for her children. And Adam couldn't step up fast enough and say, you know what, that woman that you gave me got me in trouble. And what does God say? God says, woman, what is this thou hast done? And then we find passages in Psalms, and I didn't pull this up because I didn't actually intend on going into it, where she says they lay accusations and charges against me, and I have no idea what they're talking about. And it's a spiritual overlay. Let me see if I can just find it right quick. It's either 50 or 55. It's in the Psalms 50 to 55 somewhere. Let me see. I thought I had circled it. I always think I circle, but if I circle, then I've circled the entire, Bible, I guess. But 55 is all about talking about escaping as a dove into the wilderness. Because her friend, her best friend, her husband turned on her. That's what Psalm 55 is about. But that's not the chapter where it says they lay to my charge accusations that I know nothing about. And the idea in that passage, if I could find it, if I could remember the passage that it fell in, was that she's left stunned, holding her mouth open. She can't argue her case, she can't debate it, because she's just so stunned by what her husband has done to her. He has accused her. And it left her so stunned, it left her in complete silence with the accusations that she says that they laid to my charge and I know nothing about. Okay, so we see the allegory in that, all right? Don't we? The daubing of the wall. All right, now we're looking at that in a spiritual sense of what Adam did. He covered it over, he hid it. All right, and he blamed his wife for what he did. Now, where are we going to find the physical comparison to that wall? Well, it tells you. Let's go to, and of course I don't have it pulled up here. All right, that's fine. Let's go to Ezekiel 13. This is one of the passages that we're going to use. And if I don't get it all done today, I'll do another video to finish up, okay, on the key of David. And I'm not sure that I ain't done making videos. Yeah, it can get to be discouraging when you have very few paying attention. It does. You're at it a year and you just stay the same. You see no growth. That's not to diminish anyone who really is watching. I really appreciate those. But let's just skim through this passage. I don't want to get weighed down, because we need to make the connect fast enough that you're going to understand. Okay, so let's go to Ezekiel 13:10. And it's great to read the whole chapter because there's so many other elements in this passage that absolutely lines up with everything in the key of David, such as verse 4, O Israel, thy prophets are like the foxes in the deserts. Now, we examined the foxes in the desert in my third video that I ever made, Woman Who You Are, Key of David. And it's in that third video of 4 that I talk about the foxes in the deserts, okay? And what they were guilty of doing. And that's why these prophets are called the foxes, okay? Because a fox is a burrower, something that digs. And we discussed how these foxes actually remove the truth, the truthful foundation, handful by handful, and packed in the lies. That's why they're called foxes. All right? They built this world on a lying foundation. And that foundation began out as Old Testament law. And it's continued to bleed throughout. Such as, you see that law that the king decreed in the book of Esther, that every woman would bow down to her Baal, B-A-A-L there, her husband, as Lord and Master of the house. It was a law that was decreed by a wicked king, in my opinion, against every woman practically in existence at that time. And then it's amazing how the exact same verse, almost, or same idea gets pronounced on women again in the New Testament, who are under grace. No, we're not. We're under law. We're under bondage. We're under our husband's bondage. We're under our Baal's bondage. That's what we're under. That's what it says. So those foxes are important to pay attention and to understand their role in the whole thing. And that's why in Song of Songs, the Spirit is, God is talking, and Mother is talking to her daughter. He's talking to his beloved. And they're saying, catch for us the foxes that would spoil the vineyards that's in bloom. So they're saying, catch on to what they did. Pick your head up. Wake up to what they did. They've got you in bondage. All right? So verse 10 of Ezekiel 13. Because they have seduced my people, they have lulled you into false theology, a lie, which has continued on. If it began as a lie that they slowly removed the truth, whoever rediscovered it, the Spirit does at the end. Because they have seduced my people, saying peace, and there was no peace. Oh, they pretend. Oh, it's peaceful. You know, you're happy where you are, girls. You know, we're taking good care of you. We protect your rights. You don't have any. We just pretend to give you rights. And one built up a wall. There we go. And lo, others daubed it with untempered mortar. 11. Say unto them which daub it with untempered mortar, that it shall fall. There shall be an overflowing shower, and ye, O great hailstones, shall fall. And a stormy wind, there's that word wind again, shall rend it. Lo, when the wall is fallen, shall it not be said unto you, where is the daubing wherewith ye have daubed it? The lies that you have covered it over with, where are they now? We have took it down. And what does it say? You will be called the restorer of the breach, the repairer of paths to dwell in. That's what it calls these daughters of Zion. We have to repair the breach. Though they daub it over, we have to repair it. And so here we have a wall. Okay, well, where else do we have a wall in scriptures? That's pretty darned important to understand what's going on. Well, we have in... I didn't want to go to this passage, but because I'm talking about the wall, we'll go there, okay? So, no, let's not do that. Sorry. Let's go to Micah 2, if my computer's going to let me go there. Okay, so in Micah 2, watch what it says about those who were in power. Now, bear in mind, King Solomon was the king that took power after David, okay? Solomon was David's son. We know this. Woe to them, this is Micah 2. Woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds. When the morning is light, they practice it because it is in the power of their hand. Now, Solomon clearly shows that he's one of these that does this. And we know that he's the one that daubs the wall. And we're going to show you exactly how he does this. Now, this is, I believe, what Solomon did. He was guilty of seizing power because he was able to do so. And they covet fields, and they take them by violence, and houses, and take them away, so they oppress. It says a man. No, it's clearly a woman. It identifies a woman. In all of these passages, it is the women that are oppressed. So they oppress a woman and her house, even a woman and her heritage. They took her rights away from her. She has no heritage. She has no inheritance. She has no rights. There's no queens that rules. There's only kings. They took your birthright from you. They tell you you have no seed. It's all his seed. They remove her place out of the context of the truth, is what these foxes did. These men of Baal did, and this poison tickles their little ears. It tells us this. Verse 3, therefore thus saith the Lord, behold, against this family do I devise an evil, from which ye shall not remove your necks, neither shall ye go haughtily, for this time is evil. Now what family is she talking about? Well, it tells us in the very beginning there'll be enmity between the woman's seed and Lucifer's seed, the Holy Spirit's seed. That's Adam's wife. That's the Adamic nations. That's what they are. There was one that came to represent the woman's seed, Eve's seed, and that was Israel, the greater blessed. All right? Therefore, thus saith the Lord, behold, against this family. Okay, verse 4, in that day shall one take up a parable against you, and lament with a doleful lamentation. Who wrote the book of Lamentation? Jeremiah. He laments for the daughters of Zion. We're going to show that in Jeremiah 9, in Jeremiah 6. Jeremiah, the early chapters of Jeremiah, all of Jeremiah speaks of these wonderful daughters that were denied their rightful place and led into paths that they should have never been led into, and had violence perpetuated against them that should have never been perpetuated against them, and they were cast out into the fields of the Gentiles to bear the sins that that whore spirit brought on, and fallen Adam. We be utterly spoiled. He had changed the portion of my people. Right. Changed the portion. Put in power those that should have never been put in power. How had he removed it from me, turning away? He had divided our fields. They were taken away from us. Our rightful place, our rightful inheritance, our rightful birthrights were taken away from us and given to wicked men. And this continually hits at this. Therefore thou shalt have none that shall cast a cord by lot in the congregation of the Lord. Now we determined that this congregation, that the Mother Jerusalem, which is your life, your mother from above, this congregation of daughters was hers to inhabit. All right, this was the Spirit inhabiting these 144,000, I believe, daughters of Zion, known as the congregation of the Lord. And the Lord is Mother Jerusalem from above, and she inhabits them. So she goes by a twofold name almost. She goes by Mother Jerusalem here on earth, and she also goes by Daughter Zion. All right. Now, so she says to him, there'll be none of you in my congregation. Prophesy ye not, say they to them that prophesy, they shall not prophesy to them, that they shall not take shame. O thou that art named the house of Israel. Is the Spirit of the Lord straight, and are these her doings? Do not my word do good to her that walketh uprightly as well as him? Oh no, but it's just the hymns. Oh, they're the good guys. We're talking about these wicked men and these wicked women who worked in cahoots together to remove the righteous spirit. Now, who do you think Christ came to claim? He didn't come to claim every man and woman who bows down to him. He came to claim his bride, his one. We're showing that in the creation account. It's one male, one female. It's not one man and a polygamous bride. That's fallen Adam in the whore spirit's theology. Even of late my people is risen up as an enemy. You pull off the robe with the garment from them that pass by securely, as men who act like you're returning from war. You act like you're at war with the daughters of Zion. These are the daughters who were symbolized by these robes and these garments. They were probably considered royalty by every tribe in Israel. And as they passed through this wall that these gates that David left open, they passed by onto Mount Zion. And they had houses within Judah, the land of Judah, that they lived in. And they would make these laws that governed the body of Israel. And then they would pass back and forth as they went back to their lands, and would take these rulings, and they were rulings, just rulings. They were good rulings, righteous rulings. They suppressed no one. So the women of my people have ye cast out from their pleasant houses. From their children have ye taken away my glory. This is what they did. This is what Solomon does. Watch. Arise ye and depart. Now this is mother speaking to her daughters. She's saying, depart, for this is not your rest, because it has become polluted, and it shall destroy you even with a sore destruction. So this is a warning to her daughters to leave now. Her righteous daughters of Zion, to leave this land, because it has cast you out. It does no longer want you. It wants the whore spirit. The men want to govern themselves. They no longer need God. If a man walking in the spirit and falsehood does lie, saying, I will prophesy unto thee of wine and of a strong drink, he shall even be the prophet of this people. So it's telling you who they began to put in charge of everything, of prophesying, of the laws. They put anybody in who was a big old liar and a loser. That's who they put in charge. That's what it says here. I will surely assemble, O Israel, all of thee. I will surely gather the remnant of Israel. These are the daughters of Zion. I will put them together as the sheep of Basra, as the flock in the midst of their fold. They shall make great noise by reason of the multitude of people. Now we find a great multitude saying, grace, grace to the headstone being brought forth. That's the congregation of these daughters of Zion. Verse 13, watch this verse, all right? Because I think this is going to take us back to the Shushan gate. And the Lord spoken of here is daughter Zion, full of the spirit of Mother Jerusalem. The breaker is come up before them. They have broken up and have passed through the gate. That's a wall. And are gone out by it. And not their king, their queen shall pass before them, and the Lord at the head of them. The Lord there is daughter Zion, leading them out through the Shushan gate, possibly. So what does it say? Another translation, the one who breaks open the way, the clean footpath, all right, will go up before them. They will break through the gate and go out. Their queen will pass through before them. She is at their head. The Lord is at their head. All right. Now let's go to Jeremiah 9 before we go and show you exactly that this is exactly what King Solomon did to his father David's breaches in the wall. All right? So we're looking at the allegory showing itself in physical time and space. All right? So we saw the spiritual with Adam daubing his sins up and blaming his wife, who he had a covenant with. We're told that in Malachi 2, he dealt treacherously with the wife of his youth, unfaithful with her. And in Job, we're told he daubed that wall up. And then we see the physical time and space, it coming into time and space, and it's showing you what went on. All right? So, Jeremiah, what does it say? Oh, that my head were waters and mine eyes a fountain of tears. Jeremiah 9. That I might weep day and night for the slain of the daughter of my people. Oh, that I had in the wilderness a lodging place of wayfaring men, that I might leave my people, because they have become an assembly of treacherous and adulterous men. They have turned from the righteous daughters. They no longer want them for their companions. They want the whores. That's what they want, the whore spirit, who came in from the surrounding Adamic nation and began to actually pollute the legitimate pool of the seed of Israel. And then we know you claim your heritage. It was the woman's seed that was blessed, representing Israel. And because these men began to choose these wives from surrounding Adamic nations, and the daughters get cast out into the fields of the Gentiles to wander in a land not inhabited, that's the Gentile nations, as your Azazel goat, which is your she-goat identified in your Abrahamic Sarah covenant. Yep, we're going to keep hitting at it. And which is your flock, your daughters of Zion, called she-goats, that your Shulamite tends to. And they got cast out in the fields of the Gentiles, the women in whom you're going to claim to be an Israelite through. So these men took in these surrounding daughters from surrounding whore nations and put them in charge, or actually they allowed the men to govern themselves. And so there you go. And they bend their tongues, but they were an assembly of unfaithful. They were liars. They had no issues with pointing at their righteous sister and blaming her for everything. And what do? They bend their tongues like their bows for lies, but they are not valiant for the truth upon the earth. For they proceed from evil to evil, and they know not me, saith the Lord. Take ye heed, every one, to her neighbor, not his neighbor. And trust ye not in any brother, for every brother will utterly supplant, and every neighbor will walk with slander. And they did. They supplanted their sister as the rulers of earth. That's what they did. That's what the whore spirit that they exalt in their heart, called Lucifer, taught them to do. All right. And they will deceive everyone, his neighbor, and will not speak the truth. They have taught their tongues to speak lies, and weary themselves to commit iniquity. Thine habitation is in the midst of deceit. Through deceit they refuse to know me, saith the Lord. They don't want to know the righteous spirit's rulership. They don't want to know the daughter Zion. They don't want to know Mother Jerusalem. They're the ones that sit actually between the cherubim or the cherubim. It tells you that in I know one of the passages is in Isaiah 37. I'm pretty sure it's Isaiah 37. But then it's a chapter. Isaiah 37 is a complete repeat of another chapter, I believe, that you find in Kings. 1st or 2nd Kings, and I can't remember the chapter. But it's an exact repeat. And in that chapter it tells you that it is daughter Zion and mother Jerusalem that dwells between the cherubim there, or cherubim. Therefore thus saith the Lord of hosts, behold, I will melt them and try them, for how shall I do for the daughter of my people? Their tongue is as an arrow, shot out, it speaketh deceit. One speaketh peaceably to his neighbor with his mouth, but in his heart he layeth in wait. And they did. They set up an ambush to take her out, and they used every method that they could think of to take her out of play and to remove her role from the Bible as much as possible. Shall I not visit them for these things, saith the Lord? Shall not my soul be avenged on such a nation? For the mountains will I take up a weep. What mountains? The rightful rulers. Will I take up a weeping and a wailing, and for the habitations of the wilderness a lamentations, because they are burned up so that none can pass through, neither can men hear the voice of the cattle, both the fowl of the heavens and the beasts are fled, they are gone. So let's keep going down here, all right, for the sake of time, because I want to hit on, it says, but they have walked after the imaginations of their own heart and after Balaam, which their fathers taught them. So it's by route. They're teaching by route. We never came to the clean footpath. Even when Christ came, after Christ came to reestablish a clean footpath, those men took control again and began to pollute the truth again and hide it in the word. All right? Therefore, thus saith the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, behold, I will feed them, even this people, with wormwood, and give them water of gall to drink. You want to be poisoned? You want death? You'll have it. This is the passage I was looking for. Verse 17 of Jeremiah 9. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, consider ye and call for the mourning women, or your cunning women, it says, and send for the cunning women that they may come. Now, I found, if you look cunning women up here, it's not going to give you princesses. But there was another term where they were called cunning women, and it was in Lamentations, and it was princess in the word when you looked it up. So they find ways to tell you the truth, but it's really convoluted, the way that you have to come to these truths, but it is there. So these cunning women were your daughters of royalty here. And they were your wise women, and they led the nation of Israel. That's what their role was. These were your daughters of Zion. So, and send for your cunning women that they may come, and let them make haste, and take up a wailing for us, that our eyes may run down with tears, and our eyelids gush out with water. For a voice of wailing is heard out of Zion. How are we spoiled? We are greatly confounded, because we have forsaken the land. They've been forced to forsake the land, because our dwellings have cast us out. They cast them out. They no longer wanted them. And how did they do that? Because they ripped down their houses and they daubed up the gates in the wall. It says with Solomon, in the wall of his father David, the breaches that had been left open, he daubed them up. And he rips down the houses of these daughters of Zion, who were your rightful rulers. For a voice of wailing is heard out of Zion. Okay. Ye hear the word of the Lord, O ye women, and let your ears receive the word of her mouth, and teach your daughters wailing, and every one her neighbor lamentations. All right. For death is come up into our windows, and is entered into our palaces, to cut off the children from without, and the young men from the streets. Okay. So we see it here. We also see this chapter. I believe it's repeated in Jeremiah 6, this entire chapter, just about. And it speaks about peace, peace when there is no peace, to the daughter. All right? So the men are saying, it's okay. This theology is okay. It includes you because you're the bride that Christ died for. That's how it includes you. No, they daubed over the truth. They lied. They shut the righteous daughter out of her rightful place. And that's who Christ came to claim, the daughter Zion. That's the key of David. All right? Now we're going to look at this even deeper here. 1 Kings 11. All right. Okay. What does it say of Solomon? But King Solomon loved many strange women, together with the daughter of Pharaoh, and it lists a whole bunch. Oh yeah. A woman looks sideways at a man, she's a sinner, but a man can have 700 wives and 200 concubines. He's a good, righteous man. There's no such thing as love. Not with that. They can preach out all they want. That was made by men. Of the nations concerning which the Lord said unto the children of Israel, ye shall not go in unto them. You will not take wives from the surrounding nations. God warned them in Deuteronomy, it was 4 or 15. I can't remember. He says, you do not take women from surrounding nations, because they were going to contaminate their seed, which was from the righteous daughters, and they didn't listen. So Solomon here clearly is shown going against the Lord. He takes unto him many, many wives. He got old. Basically blames all the wives for his departure. No, it was his own. It was his own desire. His heart desired it. It says, and his heart was not perfect with the Lord his God, as was the heart of David his father. Okay, so they go after many gods. His wives go after many gods, and so don't he. He actually went after Moloch, I think, which means great king. He was actually looking to make himself a great king in name. So we'll go down. Okay, so the passage we're actually going to look at in 1 Kings 11 is called Jeroboam's Rebellion. All right, and this puzzled me for a while when I first found it, because I was like, well, what was the problem? What was the issue here? Until I began to understand. Sorry about that. Okay, just making sure that it's still recording, that it's not stuck. Okay, so back to 1 Kings 11. We're going to start at 26. And Jeroboam the son of Nebat, an Ephrathite of Zereda, Solomon's servant, whose mother's name was Zeruiah, a widow woman. So we're bringing his mother into this, who was a widow woman, who Jeroboam gets angry on her behalf. Even he lifted up his hand against the king. And this was the cause that he lifted up his hand against King Solomon. Solomon built Milo and repaired, watch this, and repaired the breaches of the city of David his father. Now remember the context that we're looking at. To repair a breach means to cover it over. Alright? Doesn't mean to fix it out and make it pretty. It means to cover it over. He repaired them. He covered them over, but he did more than that. He was tearing down their houses. These daughters of Zion's houses on the wall, so that he could make better living quarters for his whore wives, is what he was doing. And he was denying the key of David, all right, who left the gates open for the daughters of Zion to pass through. They're the key. And David knew they were the key of life, the key of man's existence to eternal life. He knew this, all right, because they were the congregation of Mother Jerusalem from above, which gives life to all things. All right, we're beginning to understand the correlation here. All right, so this was the cause that Jeroboam came against him. And it's funny because he brings in his mother here. All right, and that's just not by mistake or just to connect an idle detail. It's to show you why he came against Solomon. And the man Jeroboam was a mighty man of valor. And Solomon, seeing the young man that he was industrious, sure he did. He saw that. What was in Solomon's heart is, I'm going to buy him off. I'll shut him up. Don't worry. And he does. He made him ruler over all the charge of the house of Joseph. And there you go. Got him out of the way just like that. Right? But it tells us what he was doing. It tells us he daubed the wall of his father David up. Daubed the wall up where David had saw fit to leave them open. Because, and then we're told what they were doing. They were actually tearing the houses down on these walls. We're told it in Micah 2. We're told it in Jeremiah 9. And we're told that many kings, not just Solomon, but it began with Solomon, that they began to daub the wall. All right? Now with Solomon, he was the first to daub up the breaches in the wall of David, his father, which was the key of David. And the occult world then comes to exalt the key of Solomon, the whore spirit in the heart, right? That's what the occult world is after. These men, these wicked men, these wicked sons of Baal and Belial, and these wicked women desire power, is what they desire. And in order to do that, it meant getting rid of the key of David. It meant getting rid of the righteous daughters of Zion by tearing their houses down, by kicking them out of the land, out of the body. So now, when we go back to the verse in Job 31:33 of what Adam did, when he allowed the whore spirit in and made a covenant with her and daubed his wall, we see the physical correlation of it. We see it come into existence as that wall, an allegorical wall, which now is physical. All right? That's what we see. We're clearly seeing a correlation to the key of David and the government of God upon his shoulder, which is the key of David, which is the daughters of Zion, removed out of their rightful place. If I have concealed, have I tried to hide my sin? If I have covered my transgressions, my unfaithfulness, as Adam, by hiding mine iniquity in my bosom. And that's what he did. He daubed the wall. Adam daubed his wall. He lied. He lied. And he built himself up with thick clay. He thickened the clay so no one could see past the lie. Shall not all these take up a parable against him and a taunting proverb against him and say, woe to him that increases that which is not his? How long? And to him that ladeth himself with thick clay. He daubed the wall over with thick clay. He did it by handful, removing lie, removing the truthful foundation and packing in the lies as a thick clay. All right? That's what you're looking at in allegory. All right? And most just don't get it. They're still wanting to bow down to a man and go, that's your God. God is he. There's no way there's a female that's higher than any male. It's just she gives life to you. That's all. That's all she does. That's no big deal. She just gives life to you. She gives eternal life to you, and she alone can do that. She is the queen, and she is the exalted one, not only in the heavens, but there's going to be a female descendant that will come forth to lead the people into the paths of truth. And that will happen when these daughters are filled as the congregation of the Lord with Mother Jerusalem's spirit from above. They're actually going to manifest in physical time and space, just like that wall did. All right? So you have your spiritual, and then you have your physical. All right? So that's what we're looking at. And that's your key of David, summed up. Wow, I figured it would take me a lot longer. Did I miss any passages in that? Felt like I missed some. I know I could have went into a lot more detail. But I mean, we're looking at summarizing it in such a way that your brain can click it in and go, yeah. You know, well, that kind of makes sense, you know. And who's gonna be called the restorer of the breach and clean paths to dwell in? Well, that's your daughters of Zion. And Mother says to in the scriptures, she says, who's gonna bring me into Edom? Well, Edom is another word for Adam. Who's going to bring me in there? Well, her congregation of old is going to bring her in there, because they're finally going to pick their heads up and they're going to wake up and they're going to call on the spirit of Mother Jerusalem, her power, and they're going to bring her in to deal the judgment upon fallen in that whore spirit. And that's what we're looking at. the coming judgment of daughter Zion that sits to the right hand of Christ in Psalm 110. And we're told that you have no fear of these leaders of this government of God. You have no fear if you're doing that which is right. You're told that in Romans 13. But we're also told if the rejecting of them be the reconciling of the world, what shall the receiving of them be but life from the dead? And it's clearly talking about the daughters of Zion. It says Israel has obtained that which she seeketh for. And she does. And she does it through truth. And she finally does what she is appointed to do, which is to deliver the children. She saw doing that in Revelation 12. Okay. So, wow. That was a lot quicker than I thought it would be. I figured I'd have 2 or 3 videos out of that. Okay, so I'll probably go in and watch a video and see what I didn't add in that probably really should be there. I hope it's fairly straightforward for anybody who really does want to understand the key of David. You know, they've got so much foolishness out there of what the key of David is. It's the daughter of Zion. And it's told us to Christ, I think it's Isaiah 9, it says, to him will I lay the key of David upon his shoulder. And then it tells you the government will be upon his shoulder. The government is the daughters of Zion. The key is the daughters of Zion. The righteous daughters of Zion that were rejected out of the rightful place when the men in positions of power, wicked men in positions of power, tore down their homes, ripped their robes, their mantles from them, rejected them out of the rightful place as the rulers of the body. That's what they do. All right? They govern the body. So you have Judah, you have Israel. You have male, you have female. That's what you have. And Christ, it says, the scepter will not depart from between the paws or the feet of Judah until Shiloh comes, until the ruler comes. And that is daughter Zion. It is a female descendant. It is no male. And we prove that too with Micah 5. She comes forth. She who comes forth is of old. So it's telling you she descends from these daughters of old, these daughters of Zion from old. She's an actual, original descendant from them, is what it looks like. Who she is, we don't know. I'm anxiously awaiting her arrival, I think. I'm just really looking forward to the sealing of this 144,000. Whether I'm one of them or not, I'm really anxiously awaiting their arrival. I'm already in love with them. And I love the sons who are going to receive them as the truth. It's going to take a strong man to do this. And that's what Christ was. He was a man. He was a strong man. And he joined himself to the key of David. Know ye not, he that is joined to a harlot is a harlot. Christ was not a harlot. That's what it's telling you. You're one. So you can think you're better than some slut that you join yourself to. That's what you are. You're a harlot too. There's male harlots, there's female harlots. You're one. But Christ didn't do that. Christ joined himself to the key of David. Christ joined himself to daughter Zion. And she is one. We don't teach polygamy. The laws of heaven were never based upon polygamy. That's Old Testament law that does that. It corrupts your mind. It corrupts your thinking and how to look upon your righteous sisters. You're to favor them. You're to love them. You're to exalt them. You're not to debase them. You're not to think you're their head. Head in New Testament is kephale. That's feminine. It's feminine for a reason. It's referencing your spirit as your head. That's what it's referencing, because she governs the body. And she does it with laws of equity, equality, which is something we do not have right now. All right. So there we have it. Thanks to all who likes my videos, even dislikes. Those motivate me even more sometimes. But it's a joy to see the likes on my videos. Subscribers, thank you for subscribing and sharing my videos. Thank you so much. I appreciate you taking the time to try to understand this and to break it down for yourself and to really let the Spirit lead you, because that's what we're missing. We think men are rulers and we have to let them teach us. No, it tells you, you come to the Spirit and you reason these out with the Spirit. You don't go to no man. He's a sinner. He's no better than you are, despite what they taught you. He's no better than you are. All right? The Spirit is waiting for us daughters to cry out and ask the right question. Who am I in you? And that's on you. It can't be on me. It can't be on him. It can't be on her. It's on you. That's who it's on. Your personal relationship with the Lord. That's what you have to be looking at. All right. So, love my brothers and sisters. May the Lord bless you this day in your personal endeavors. I hope you all have a really nice day.